Hi everyone, this is episode 67 of the Get in My Garden podcast. I'm Aaron Moskowitz, and we are back with William Padilla-Brown discussing how to grow mushrooms in a Hugo Culture mound, how a myco-focused permaculture lifestyle has benefited his young son, and then he shares some of the most interesting things he is working on right now, such as mushroom breeding for traits and understanding their DNA. William is a great example of a super learner who is working towards a healthier world. He always has many interesting current and upcoming projects, which he will share at the end of the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen from and leave positive reviews to support the show. Follow my adventures relating to the podcast at Get in My Garden on Instagram and sign up for the newsletter on getinmygarden.com. So last time we talked, we were talking about algae. You were getting started with that. I know you're super into mycology and always doing something new. So what has changed? What have you learned in the last year?
In mycology, I did a lot of breeding work. That's what I really got into at the end of last year. I started getting better at finding cordyceps militaris in the wild, and then I started working with breeding them more, because all of my other breeding projects over the past couple of years have been just like shotgun breeding. Like I threw a bunch of spores on a plate and then worked with whatever happened. But last year I got into spore isolation and then mating two individual spores, which at that point you can start to look at the genetic variations of the different parent cultures. So like when I get a single spore, I'll grow it out and I'll mate it with a bunch of different other spores. And they have two mating types, which you can't identify that with the naked eye. I have to use DNA extraction and amplification and gel electrophoresis to figure out like basically if they're a boy or a girl. Then I mate the boys to the girls, and then I can look at all of the offspring and figure out, oh, this male, so to speak, because they're not boy or girl, but this male, all of its offspring has this trait, and this female, all of its offspring has this trait. And then I pick the ones that I like the most and combine those together and create more commercialized or just like kind of designer cordyceps strains.
That's amazing. So what kind of features are you looking for? Is it something in what you see visually?
Yeah, so I like long stroma, so like longer fruiting bodies. I like the parathecium, which is the spore-bearing part. I like that to be at the top with like a naked base. And then I want the yields to be over 3 grams per pint jar. When I do all my testing, I test it in pint jars because it's just easy and reliable. And I know if they're going to yield over 3 grams per pint jar, then it's going to be a pretty decent yielding strain.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing that in the future, it's very possible that something very different is going to be developed, probably by you.
My friends, Ryan Gates and Jeff Mangaro, my bad if I mispronounced Jeff's name. I always forget how to pronounce his last name, but they're doing way more breeding projects than I'm doing. Yeah, they've been just going at it way harder than me, and now that I'm settled in this new space, I feel like my head's clearing up a little bit, and I feel ready to take on more stuff.
Good for you. Well, and I guess back to the Hugo Culture, do you know with Hugo Culture, what's going on with specific fungi and how that exactly works?
Even if you don't inoculate it, some soil fungi are going to get in there and do all sorts of things. You can inoculate it if you want to with like wine caps or something like that. If you get fresh logs, like a maple or, any kind of hardwood, maple, oak, like cherry, whatever, and you inoculate it with wine caps and then put wood chips with wine cap spawn in it as well. Once they run through that log, which might take a year or so, they'll just produce massive fruits. That'll be like a battery pack for them.
That's awesome. I think that's a really cool hybrid garden method, which would appeal to people who aren't really into mushrooms because it doesn't take too much attention. It stays so moist underneath.
Yeah, and you really don't have to do anything besides water your plants or wait for it to rain, and then you just get food. So. And it breaks down the wood faster for nutrients for the plant.
So I guess one of the questions I had, I don't know if you want to speak to this or not, but there are people talking about, obviously, mushrooms and immunity. That's always been kind of something that's been talked about. But now with COVID, have you heard anything about specific mushrooms that are helping in that way?
I think if you go on Fox Farm Forage Instagram, there are some friends, I think they're down in South Carolina, they have a mushroom farm. They posted something really interesting that was showing a couple different medicinal mushrooms agitate the immune system in a way that could perpetually be detrimental if you do have COVID. And I've Stephen Buhner put out some stuff about cordyceps for COVID, but like whenever they did that, all of the websites that had information on like herbal remedies for COVID got shut down.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, I really don't know.
Well, I love that the lifestyle component of it and what it can do for children. I mean, I've always said that about gardening, but your lifestyle is more, I guess, fungi focused and lots of cool projects. And I saw that you're doing a documentary. Do you want to talk about that and how it's helped your kid?
My friend's been making a documentary series for like 3.5 years, and we filmed a couple years ago, and we've done some work on it, and I don't know when it's going to come out. He's raising money for it right now. If anybody's interested, go check out Rev of Thought on Instagram. It's my friend Anthony Rodriguez. He's just an incredible storyteller and photographer and film or cinematographer. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but yeah, he's doing incredible work on individuals around the world that their lifestyle choices and the way that they live are bringing us all back to nature. So that's really, really cool. And I'm really excited to see the finished product of that. But he's been following my work for years and recording what I've been up to for a while. So there's a lot of good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, my kid's going to be in it. I haven't really seen what comes of it because, I mean, it's not out yet. But him being exposed to all this kind of stuff, I feel like it's built a lot of confidence in him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's always ready to make some videos and like teach some people. I mean, he's been at a lot of my classes, and like even when he was like, there's just one of my favorite pictures. He was like 2 years old, and I was teaching this class about urban farming, and he came out with a plant in the middle of my talk and started talking to people. He's like, "This is a plant. You put it in the ground so you have food.
That is so
have
awesome.
Our chickens so we can eat eggs." And like I was just like, yeah, man, what's up? So I've definitely seen it build his confidence, and our lifestyle has really instilled a lot of really beneficial values in him. Like he knows that he doesn't like to get toys that have a lot of plastic packaging, and like he knows mm-hmm. about recycling, and he knows he wants to put all of his food waste into the compost. And he worries about things like what happens when you flush stuff down the toilet, like where's the water go, like is it clean, like all these kinds of things. So I don't know how much he knows and how much holism is in his experience, because he's connected a lot of dots that I didn't even think about until I was almost an adult. So
yeah, it's amazing,
the effects of it all.
I'm guessing too there haven't really been children eating a lot of healthy mushrooms like lion's mane that are clearly good for their brain. Maybe he is like a super learner or something.
I mean, he was really quick to jump off the breast milk as soon as he was able to eat food. And ever since he's been eating food, he's eaten way more species of mushrooms and plants than I even knew existed whenever I was little. Like he eats wild foods all the time and like all sorts of mushrooms. So he's got the toolkit for success at this point, you know.
Is there anything else you wanted to share about?
My new book should be out shortly. I don't want to put another release date out because I've let a lot of people down by announcing a release date before I was prepared. I'm in communication with a couple other publishers about writing another book, so keep a lookout for that. I'm going to be doing a lot of online courses even when quarantine's over, just because I don't really intend on leaving this little farmstead for a while. I want to like sink my roots in and do a lot of work here. Whenever quarantine is over, I'm going to be hosting some in-person classes again. I don't know if you don't follow me already, check me out at myco-focused on Instagram. Check out my YouTube at Apex Grower. Propagating mycelium, everybody, you know, create the systems that we need to replace these antibiotic systems that we've been dealing with.
Very awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you getting me on here again, and I hope everybody that's listening can have the opportunity to get outside and do something cool.
Great message. All right, well, take care of yourself, and I'll be following you closely.
Bless. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Next week, we have some great new content scheduled about Korean natural farming and microbes. Stay connected via Instagram at Get In My Garden or via the weekly newsletter, where I will share supplemental and special content and interesting things I discover that I normally share with my friends.